Hello and welcome to another hopefully exciting edition of 5 for Friday. I'm Ross Brierley and let's get stuck in to what's caught my eye this week. Plenty of things supposedly come with age, maturity, experience, hair in your ears and nose. But what doesn't normally come are Group 1 victories, a fact that old-timers Barney Roy and Lord Glitters are hoping to change at Meydan on Saturday. The two favourites for the Jebel Hatter this weekend are 8 and 9 years old respectively, barely able to tie their own shoelaces in human terms, but pretty much on the verge of being put out to pasture when it comes to horses. What makes this matchup even more interesting, of course, is like ageing wrestlers stepping into the ring for one more clash. These two have got previous. The gallant grey Lord Glitters beat the Godolphin runner in the 2019 Queen Anne and followed up again in the 2021 Bahrain Trophy, pipping him on the line in his patented style. So far the score is very comfortably in favour of David O'Mara's charge, but with an extra year on his side, the Godolphin boy Barney Roy could have the last laugh this Saturday. However, there are plenty of in-form younger legs up against them. Zakuski, Felix, Land of Legends and Finest Sound all have leading claims for what looks like a mouth-watering Group 1. The Cheltenham Festival weights were released this week, of course, which has led to the usual predictable griping and moaning and some very interesting analysis from both sides of the Irish Sea. It would appear on paper that the Irish handicap hurdlers have been given a little bit of a tougher task this year, but that's no surprise. They did win all 4 handicap hurdles at the festival last season, 3 of them with subsequent Grade 1 winners, and the other one was Heaven Help Us, who bolted up from the front by 9 lengths. And the big question, of course, is, does it really matter? Would £3 have stopped Galloping Deschamps from bolting up in the Martin Pipe handicap hurdle last season? I very much doubt it. Given that £3 is the equivalent of your average butternut squash, I'm not sure it would have made much difference. Sure, if I had to carry one on a Saturday morning during parkrun, it might have a bit of a negative impact, but that's less to do with the weight and more to do with the inconvenience of running around carrying a cumbersome vegetable. Plus, let's be honest, £3 is approximately 0.25% of your average thoroughbred's weight, whereas it's about 1.8% of my current weight. The equivalent for me would be going for a jog whilst carrying a Toblerone, which would, admittedly, have a devastatingly negative impact, but that's because I would stop doing the run and sit down and eat the chocolate instead. That said, one man who will be obsessing over the weights ahead of the Cheltenham Festival is JP McManus, who has 54 entries at Cheltenham over those 4 days in March, and 29 of them are entered in handicaps. Is £3 going to stop Andy Dufresne from winning the Grand Annual at Cheltenham? Given that he crawled through a storm drain to escape Shawshank Prison, I highly doubt it. Of course, the most notable factor of whether a JP horse is going to win at the festival is, as Fran Berry once said, the application of cash. If you'd have backed all the McManus handicappers who went off 10 to 1 or shorter since 2013, you'd have had 10 winners from 76 runners, and you'd have lost £8 on that SP bet. 11 to 1 or bigger, 123 runners, no winners, and only 8 hitting the frame. It's not just the handicappers either. McManus horses in non-handicaps at the festival since 2013, those who went off shorter than 10 to 1, 17 winners from 86 runners with a profit of a little over a tenner. Those who went off 11 to 1 or bigger are 2 wins from 64 runners, and you'd have lost a little bit over £30. And whilst I love making a commotion about Cheltenham getting giddy for Goodwood or the anticipation of Ascot, there is one thing that would improve all of those festivals. That's right, if they move them to the north. That's why this weekend we're all keen on Kelso and discombobulated by Doncaster. Up at the Borders track, the Premier Novices Hurdle has an illustrious roll call. The likes of Nakara Bow, Rouge Vith, Le Presienne and most recently My Drogo all taking that prize. Whilst the Premier Chase has been a happy hunting ground for the late Trevor Hemmings, with the classy cloth cap and the national winner Many Cloud scoring in the past decade. The Moor Battle is of course a fascinating race, even more so since it was turned into a handicap. The Shunter won this race last year, of course, before going on to Festival Glory, and Nicky Henderson has won it with the likes of Top Notch, We Have a Dream and Simmonsig. And of course over at sunny Doncaster the Grinthorpe takes centre stage, but the most interesting horse for the future could well be the Skelton mare Get a Tonic, who runs in the listed race and has a little bit of an air of a future Roxana for the Inform team. As for horses to keep an eye on this weekend, well, Orkin risked it as a pretty big favourite in the Dovecote last week for the Chris Gordon stable, and the horse who he beat by 7 lengths at Plumpton a few starts ago runs at Newbury in a handicap hurdle, and that's Mark of Gold for Gary Moore. Since that defeat, he's won easily at the same track twice, and I think a mark of 118 is very workable indeed. He reached a peak in the low 80s for Richard Hannon on the flat. He relishes soft ground, and this track should be absolutely spot on. In fact, he's already run pretty well here in a decent novices hurdle behind I Am Maximus earlier on in the year. That's it for this week's Five for Friday. We'll be back next week, of course, where we're building up to the big one. That's right, the Midlands National.